Hello and welcome back to the Chronicles of a Gooner. It's another edition of the Transfer Update Show. We're back after a few days in the sun. We've got lots and lots to discuss. As always, we're going to be talking Ainsley Maitland-Niles, Houssem Aouar. We're going to be talking Luis Suarez. We're going to be talking about Gabriel and the prospect of Dennis Bergkamp returning. All of that and plenty more to come on today's show. Hello, good evening, and welcome back to another live edition of the Chronicles of a Gooner. It's the Transfer Update Show with me, Harry Symeou. I am back. Thank you for all your patience over the last few days. There have been no streams. Unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, I'm not going to say unfortunately, maybe unfortunately for you guys, but not for me. I needed a break. I took a short break, went away for a few days, got some sun, got some sea, lots and lots of good food, good wine, the usual stuff that you associate with a Greek island. And I'm back feeling refreshed. And you know I'm feeling refreshed because I finished all my work in record time today, which for me is a big deal. Because I tend to work a lot of hours lately. So we're back. We did put out a couple of videos during my time in Crete, which you can find on the YouTube channel, but they were nothing special. Just a couple of iPhone jobs where I was trying to provide you guys with some updates on what was going on. But given sort of the time difference and the fact that most of the time I was just laying there sunning myself, I was probably not even as up to date as some of you guys, despite it being my job. It was well and truly a break for me, a time to switch off. And a big thanks to all of you who commented under those videos saying, mate, just enjoy yourself, take your time and relax. So yeah, big thank you to all of you for your continued support on the channel. And now is as good a time as any for me to remind you that if you haven't already, to smash that like button. The channel has grown immensely in these last few weeks, and that is largely down to the fact that you guys have been smashing that like button. It really means a lot, and it helps us. And as I keep saying, it is well and truly the golden currency when it comes to YouTube. Right, let's start talking transfers now, because there has been a lot going on in the last few days, and that means there is a lot to discuss. We're going to start working our way through the stories, and then I'm going to ask you guys to contribute with your comments, with your questions, and we'll be coming to as many of those as we possibly can between now and the end of the stream. There's around about 178 of you watching currently on YouTube, and that number is continuously rising, so a big thank you. And hopefully we'll have plenty more of you tuned in by the time we get to the end of the show. Right. Let's start off with the news in regards to Ainsley Maitland-Niles. Now, of course, Sky Sports have reported it this evening, or earlier today, I should say. This afternoon is probably the right term, that Wolves are in advanced talks with Arsenal over a 4-year deal for Ainsley Maitland-Niles. It's understood that Nuno Espirito Santo is keen to strengthen both his central midfield and fullback options, and Ainsley Maitland-Niles' versatility makes him one of the ideal candidates. Now, of course, Nuno does play with wing backs, and the wing back is a position in which Ainsley Maitland-Niles has played quite a bit lately for Arsenal and proven that he can do a job, in particular when the team is set up right around him. When he's asked to do those jobs, to contain certain players, he's done a fantastic job of that in recent times. Therefore, you can understand why he's somebody who is on Nuno's wanted list. Now, one of the things that we've always spoken about with regards to Ainsley Maitland-Niles and his time at Arsenal is the fact that maybe he probably doesn't want to be known as this utility man, this player that is called upon when there's a problem in central midfield, when there's a problem at wing back, but isn't necessarily first choice in either of those positions. I think one of the main reasons he wants to probably leave Arsenal is because of that, because he doesn't want to be just a utility man. Ainsley Maitland-Niles clearly has confidence in his own ability and believes that he can establish himself most likely as a midfielder moving forward. Now, does Wolves present that opportunity? I'm not going to say it does entirely, because we're reading that Nuno wants him because of that versatility, but you can be sure and you can be certain, I would say, that he will get more game time at a club like Wolves than he would at Arsenal at the moment. That's the harsh reality of it. And I'm not saying Ainsley Maitland-Niles is a bad player. I've questioned his attitude at times, and I think rightly so. And I don't think I'm the only one that has done that. But yeah, I feel like if there is an offer of around about £20 million on the table, then Arsenal would be silly not to think about that. And we talk a lot about the transfers that could be coming in and the potential incomings this year. And we talk about Gabriel. We talk about the desire to see Thomas Partey come to the club, the links with Thiago, with Houssem Aouar, with, a number of players. We can't expect Arsenal to do that kind of business without selling. And it feels like Ainsley Maitland-Niles is one of the few players in this Arsenal squad nowadays that can command that type of fee. Therefore, if a deal as such is on the table, then why not? Why not grab it with both hands? Why not snap it up? And why not allow Ainsley Maitland-Niles, who's made it quite clear recently that, moving away is a possibility? Is it something that he would have considered in the hope that he'd, as I said, be able to establish himself as a first teamer elsewhere, etc., etc.? So as much as I'm a little bit torn on this one, because as I say, he has proven that he can play in a number of roles. He has proven that when concentrated and when his attitude is right and when he's fully on board, he can do a good job. You can't not be a little bit like, well, this is £20 million, and £20 million right now is the difference, I guess, between getting a Gabriel. It could be the difference in making up the sum that Atletico are looking for Thomas Partey. So it could be really significant in terms of our transfer window. And is Ainsley Maitland-Niles a key component of this squad? Not necessarily for me. Is he a useful member of the squad? Yes. Is he someone that can help us plug holes, and gaps when we need to? Yes. But is he much more than that? I would argue that he's not. And so for £20 million, if the deal is indeed on the table, if Wolves, are very much interested and the interest is genuine, then I think Arsenal have to consider this bid and this approach for Ainsley Maitland-Niles. Right, let's go over to some of your live comments before we continue. Tito says, hello there, how are you? And how was your holidays? Hi, mate, thank you so much. My holidays were fantastic. Glad to be back streaming for you guys, though, as well. Chris TV says, finally. Thank you, mate. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for your continued support. Femi says, welcome back. Thank you, mate. Really, really glad to be back with you all. And Chris goes on to say, Ornstein just reported that Gabriel is doing his medical as we speak. I guess that's it would be a good segue to go on to the Gabriel talk, but we're going to park that for a minute just because of so many of your comments coming through in regards to Ainsley Maitland-Niles. So let's just tackle that issue first, and then we'll come back to Gabriel. But that is true. David Ornstein, around about 12 minutes ago, reported on Twitter that Gabriel is undergoing his medical in London as we speak, ahead of completing a transfer from Lille to Arsenal for €26 million plus €4 million in add-ons. Permission to do medical before starting quarantine has been granted, but he will have to quarantine after that. By the looks of it, Arsenal have been very clear throughout this process that they are not going to break any rules. Just because Gabriel is a footballer, it doesn't make him exempt from the rules and from what's important, and that is, of course, protecting people's health. Therefore, Gabriel will have to quarantine, we believe, after completing the medical. Right, let's quickly go on to the Maitland-Niles comments from you guys, and then we'll come back to talk about Gabriel in a little bit more detail a little bit further down the line. Dave Atkinson says 20 million for a player that has only had a handful of good games is a good transfer fee. He's a good squad player at the moment, and it's probably him that wants to leave. I agree. I've said it throughout this transfer window that the real desire for Ainsley Maitland-Niles to move on has been driven by his camp more so than it has from Mikel Arteta or from anybody at Arsenal Football Club at the moment. So it is important to note that he is said to be keen on a move away, and this Wolves opportunity feels like one that benefits all parties. Haji Mohammed says, another Gnabry in the making. We want Maitland-Niles at Arsenal. Fuck off, Board and Edu. Sell that fucking Deadwood Ozil to Wolves. Fuck off. A little bit strong there, mate. But the reality is that Ainsley Maitland-Niles appears to be a player in demand that Mesut Ozil simply isn't at the moment. Who's going to match his wages? Who's going to take on such a financial burden at this time, given everything that's gone on in the last few months? Nobody. So, you know, yes, as I said, in an ideal world, I'd keep Ainsley Maitland-Niles as part of the squad, but we don't live in an ideal world. Arsenal's finances, you know, it's well documented the position we find ourselves in, and it's not just us. There are a number of clubs that find themselves in these difficult positions at the moment, and I just think that if we want to see Arsenal rebuild and we want to see Arsenal move forward and we need to raise transfer funds, then it feels like a no-brainer and a deal that simply has to be done. Bulgarian Gooner says it's sad to see him go, but it's for a good fee and we can reinvest it in the midfield. Good luck to him. Stan the man, he talks about the Gabriel announcement. We'll come back to that in a minute as well, my friend. Albert says Ainsley Maitland-Niles for me probably doesn't want to leave Arsenal, but I just think he wants more consistent game time. Yeah, I don't think that he's sitting there sort of begging to leave or he hates the place or anything like that, but he will be torn, won't he? As a lot of us as fans are. Does he want to play regular football? If so, then he's got to consider his future. And Arsenal, by the same token, have to consider it if it means getting £20 million in the door. Brad Richardson says 20 million isn't enough for me. Dominic Solanke went for that price off the back of nothing. I would say that Dominic Solanke went for too much rather than Ainsley Maitland-Niles is not going for enough. And I think it's very easy to look around and find deals that make other deals seem like really good value for money or too cheap or too expensive. But the reality is that, you know, can we demand more than that for Ainsley Maitland-Niles? I don't think we can. If I'm being completely honest, I think anything more than 20 million is overly ambitious and is probably unrealistic in my opinion. But I take that on board, mate. And you're right to point to other transfers because there have been other transfers that would make this one seem like chump change, I guess. Right, before I continue, there are over 200 of you watching us at the moment, and we've only got 38 likes. So, guys, as I said right at the top of the show, your likes have seen this channel really, really kick on in the last few weeks. Please continue. Please hit that like button. It only takes a second, but it means the world to me and to the channel. So if you haven't done that already and you're watching us via YouTube live or you're watching us later on, make sure you smash that like button. I hate going on and on about it, but it is so important. And we've seen the benefits of it, which is why I continue to do so. Subigya says, do you think Bellerin and Cedric are any better than Ainsley Maitland-Niles? I think that it is, you know, if we're talking about wing backs and fullbacks, they're two different positions at the moment. And it really depends, doesn't it, on what Mikel Arteta sees being the way forward, being the plan. If he's going to play with wing backs, I think Ainsley Maitland-Niles can do a job as a wing back. I don't think, however, he can do a job as a right back. And I think these two have shown that they're better at right back than they are, than Ainsley Maitland-Niles is, and Ainsley Maitland-Niles, let's not forget, as much as he performed towards the end of the season in the FA Cup games and you know, gave a really, really good account of himself, he's also had a lot of bad games playing as a fullback or a wing back in recent seasons. One that comes to mind in particular was the Europa League final in Baku. So I just think that Mikel Arteta has looked at this with a longer term view. Is he going to get £20 million for Cedric Suarez? No. But he can get £20 million for Ainsley Maitland-Niles. So it's about dealing with the sort of hand you're dealt with and dealing with the current market as well. And obviously there is a demand for Ainsley Maitland-Niles. Obviously, Wolverhampton Wanderers are interested. Whether we think that fee is extortionate, not enough, or whatever is another debate for another day. But for me, I think that if you take all of that into consideration, coupled with the fact that Ainsley Maitland-Niles probably wants to move on, then that's why he's the one that's going. If you want to put it like that. Graham says, if you get on the wrong side of Arteta, you are out. And Ainsley Maitland-Niles regularly exhibits negative vibes, so I'm not surprised he's going. There is no room for disagreement with Arteta. It certainly feels that way. It certainly seems that way. And we talked about it in years gone by about players getting free rides, about players being allowed to underperform, getting away with displaying poor attitudes. Well, it certainly feels like Mikel Arteta is not going to let that happen. Whether there's a danger of him going too far that way remains to be seen. I think Matteo Guendouzi is an example where you can argue either way. He's a player that I haven't particularly rated as much as other people since he joined the club, but he is someone that potentially has what it takes to go on and be a very, very good player. And are we now losing him because there is no leeway in terms of what Mikel Arteta wants and the way Matteo Guendouzi's acting with regards to his attitude? So there is a danger that you could miss out and you can lose out, and it can be to your detriment at times. But I think overall it brings a good spirit, it brings a good unity, and it makes it very clear from the outset what is required of players that come to this football club. And so I think overall it's probably a positive. But yeah, there is no room for disagreement with Arteta at the moment. It certainly feels and seems that way at the minute, and we're going to have to see how that goes. What else have we got here? Just scrolling through lots of your comments. What else have we got here? Just trying to keep on topic. Talking about the right back position, Inter Yanan says, looks like I was right, Harry. Bellerin will be the first choice right back, and I questioned Arteta for it. You mocked me for that. I don't remember mocking you for anything. Where did I mock you? Let me know. But yeah, I think it's pretty obvious that Bellerin and Cedric are the first two choices. I'm not going to say there's a solid first choice because I don't think there is at the moment. I genuinely don't. I think that as far as I'm concerned, Mikel Arteta will give them both opportunities. Bellerin may start the season, but I also believe in Mikel Arteta that if he sees that Cedric is more suited or is performing to a higher standard, he will not hesitate in leaving Hector Bellerin out. As we've seen, he won't hesitate in leaving many players out when they don't perform. Stan the Man says, Ainsley Maitland-Niles was the one that said he needed to move away from Arsenal to further his career. So don't let the door hit you on the arse on the way out. Yeah, look, as I said, I've maintained throughout this transfer window that most of the noise with regards to a Maitland-Niles exit has been coming from his camp. They're the ones understood to have been pushing for it. But I don't think it's because he doesn't feel like Arsenal are a big club, because if he's considering joining Wolves, then that kind of backs up that point, doesn't it? It's more a case of Ainsley Maitland-Niles wanting to play regularly, wanting to nail down a position. And I don't think he's going to get the opportunity to do that at Arsenal. So when he says about furthering his career, he's talking about from a personal standpoint. He's not talking about the fact that he might go to Wolves and win more, for example, because we all know that's not going to happen. Or it's not likely to happen, and we hope it doesn't happen. But yeah, I think he's looking at it with a very selfish viewpoint. And I think as a footballer, at times, you have to be a bit selfish. You have to put yourself first. The club's not going to put you first. They're going to put their own interests first. So therefore, as a player, sometimes you need to do the same. What else have we got? Tawana mentions, hopefully we add a buyback clause on Ainsley Maitland-Niles. Jordan says, realistically, Ainsley Maitland-Niles was never going to be a starting right back at a team that wants to win the UEFA Champions League. Nino says, you cannot keep a player who wants to move. Agree. What else have we got here? Grasspatch says, I think Ainsley could be a top-class right wing-back, but I don't see him in our midfield, and that's obviously where the problem lies. Agreed. You know, Ainsley Maitland-Niles has expressed a desire on multiple occasions to play in a midfield position. Clearly at Arsenal, they don't feel that he's up to that. They don't feel that he is capable the right word? Yeah, I guess it is. They don't feel that he's capable of holding down a position in the midfield, or that he doesn't bring to the table necessarily what they're looking for, and therefore it's not going to happen for him at Arsenal. So again, like I'm kind of reluctant to see him go because of his versatility and because of a few positive performances of late, as I say. But that is the major problem. Grasspatch has hit the nail on the head. He doesn't see himself as a wing back. Arsenal don't see him as a midfielder. It's that simple. Right. Let's keep going with the Ainsley Maitland-Niles stuff. We'll just pick up a couple more comments before we continue on to something else. What else have we got here? Just having a quick scroll through your stuff. Adioson says, we need to balance books, Harry, but Ainsley Maitland-Niles shot himself on the foot with him saying the right back isn't for him. Yeah, I get all of that. I really, really do. But, I've obviously not played at Premier League level, but I've played at a decent level, and I've played in football teams where I was asked to play in positions where I didn't necessarily want to play. And I can tell you it's uncomfortable playing in positions you don't want to play in. And, yes, it's different because we're talking about the opportunity to play for Arsenal, which is, one of the biggest clubs in the world. But I understand where he comes from in the sense of if he's not playing in his right position, he will feel uncomfortable, as would anyone. And it's not, then I guess you're not necessarily fulfilling what it is that you're looking to achieve in your career. So I get why he may feel uncomfortable. I take the argument as well that he should just shut up and put up. And I've said that previously, that he should just shut up and put up while he looks to raise his stock and get himself in the public eye. And then, he'll be in a position maybe one day where he can demand where he plays. Gibrilla says, now we want to sell Niles and later regret it when his value might have increased immensely. It's all ifs and buts though, isn't it, my friend? I get where you're coming from. I just feel like we shouldn't worry about his value increasing beyond 20 million at this point, because I can't see it unless he puts in some excellent displays at his new club, wherever that may be. Samuel says, I love having Ainsley, but 20 million for a third strong midfielder and right back is good business. Completely agree with that. Right, let's check in on the likes. Over 280 of you watching us live at the moment across all the multiple platforms. A big hello to everyone who tunes in later on as well, watches it back or listens to it back or whatever it is that you choose. We've got 79 likes at the moment. Let's get up to 100 ASAP. So if you haven't and you've just joined the stream, please do smash that like button. It is, as I'll keep on saying, so important to do so. Right, let's move on to another story. Arsenal are being heavily linked with Olympique Lyonnais' Houssem Aouar, a player who is being heavily linked with a move away from Lyon. It looks pretty much nailed on that he won't be playing for the French club next season. But is he on his way to the Emirates Stadium? Well, the latest update is that Arsenal are desperately trying to work out a deal that would see Aouar come to the Emirates Stadium. But the deal that Arsenal are looking to do involves Matteo Guendouzi going the other way. And of course, that is never an easy thing to do. Swap deals are very, very complicated. First of all, how much do Lyon value Matteo Guendouzi at? Do they see him as a player that they want for the future? Do they see him as somebody that can improve their team immediately, as someone who could step into Aouar's shoes right away? I'm not entirely sure that they do. And also, given that Matteo Guendouzi is on a contract, you'd have to hope that he would want to go back to France and join up with Lyon as well. Last season, Aouar made 41 appearances for Lyon in all competitions, including 8 in the Champions League. He scored 9 goals and provided his teammates with 10 assists. Predominantly a central midfielder, he's capable of playing from the left as well and from a defensive or attacking midfield position as well. According to transfermarket.co.uk, Houssem Aouar is currently valued at £44.5 million. He's just 22 years of age, but he still has until June 2023 to run on his current Lyon contract. Therefore, you can understand why they would be unwilling to allow him to go on the cheap. Would he be a good acquisition for Arsenal? I think he'd be a fantastic buy. He's a player I really, really admire, someone that I think would instantly enhance our midfield. If we were to somehow use Guendouzi as a make weight in that deal and get him in, I think that would be fucking excellent. I really, really do. But of course, it remains to be seen whether Lyon are willing to play ball. £44.5 million. I cannot see Arsenal coughing up that sum of money in one go. I cannot see Arsenal coming up with that amount of cash, particularly when it looks like the Gabriel deal is about to be done. If we're to believe the reports that we're still hot in the pursuit of Thomas Partey as well, then does a deal for Aouar feel realistic? I think this is totally dependent on whether or not Matteo Guendouzi can be used as a make weight. I think that if Guendouzi is, I guess, valued at half of Aouar's value by Lyon, and I say by Lyon because it matters what Lyon value him at, not what we do, because that will determine whether a deal can be done or not. We might think that Guendouzi is worth 35 million pounds, but if Lyon don't see it that way, then it makes it impossible for that deal to be done. So I understand that Arsenal are considering a move for Aouar, and that there have been preliminary discussions suggesting that if Lyon were open to taking Guendouzi the other way, perhaps a deal can be reached. But that is the update at the moment. Nothing more than that. There's nothing to suggest that we're any closer to signing Houssem Aouar today than we were yesterday or the day before or the day before. But Arsenal have looked at this player, and Arsenal are considering, trying at least, to use Matteo Guendouzi as a bargaining chip in that deal, if at all possible. Let me know you guys' thoughts on Aouar. Really interested to hear what you guys have to say as well. Is he somebody that you would like to see come in? S. Valentine says, what's the Aouar news? Sorry, I missed it. I'm not going to go through it all over again, but basically Arsenal are considering a move from him and hopeful that they could use Matteo Guendouzi in some sort of make weight for that. Raymond Menghezi says, I don't think Matteo can match up for such a club like Lyon. His decision power is slow. What else have we got here? Book Sakar says, I agree the Lyon player will be an amazing addition and it's a great investment as well. This can be done if we sell Matteo Guendouzi to PSG. Yeah, you know, you either use Matteo Guendouzi as some sort of make weight in a swap deal if Lyon are interested, if Guendouzi is interested, or you could potentially use any funds raised from the sale of Matteo Guendouzi to put towards a player like Houssem Aouar. But we don't really know of anything going on with regards to Matteo Guendouzi at the moment. We don't really know of any concrete interest in the young Frenchman. And that is a little bit of a concern, isn't it? Because you'd have thought that given his age, given some of the promising displays he's put in over the last couple of years or so, and he's not always been great, let's have it right, but you would have thought there'd have been some interest. It feels like at the moment there is none. It's still early in the window and that may change. And of course, the window does run till October, doesn't it? Which means that this is going to be a strange window in a lot of ways, and one that's going to be a little bit unpredictable, I believe. But yeah, it is a bit of a concern that there's not been any real concrete interest in him just yet. We've hit 100 likes on YouTube, so thank you so much to those of you who actioned when asked to hit that like button. As I say, it is so important for the channel. It's really important on YouTube in terms of boosting the video up the rankings, and we've seen the benefit in recent weeks. We're on 110 at the moment. There's over 300 of you watching, so let's try and get to 150 sooner rather than later, as we move on to talk a little bit about Gabriel Magalhães. Now, as I said earlier in the show, and I didn't want to dwell on it at that point in time because we were in the middle of the Ainsley Maitland-Niles debate, discussion, etc. But David Ornstein, as I said, has reported that Gabriel Magalhães is currently undergoing his Arsenal medical. We've heard all sorts of crap today about fans tracking where he is and all this nonsense. We spoke about the fact that Arsenal have been given permission to complete the medical prior to Gabriel going into quarantine, which is something he will have to do, of course, coming from France. Arsenal have made it clear they're not going to break any rules in that sense, which is a good thing in my opinion. But it looks as though the deal is almost done, and he's a player that a lot of us have been excited about. He's a player that has attracted interest from a number of clubs. Man United, Napoli, sorry, I should say, are just a number of them who have been mentioned. And so this feels like a really good bit of business. What this tells me is that we will see departures in the central defensive areas. I think it will be impossible for Arsenal to continue with a number of centre-backs they have now. I think we'd be left with something like 8 which would be fucking crazy. To start a season with. We need to move some out. Socrates is being linked with a move to Napoli, as is Shkodran Mustafi. And it's very much a feeling in Italy that one of those two will end up moving to Naples after the club have seemingly missed out on bringing in Gabriel Magalhães. So not much in the way of reaction to this. We've been talking about it for a good week or so now. We mentioned it earlier on, but sort of in the month, but in the last week or two, it's really upped in terms of sort of its momentum, and it looks now as though this one is coming towards its conclusion. Gabriel undergoing a medical, and looks like he will be an Arsenal player sooner rather than later. Let's go back to the live comments and see what you guys are saying on a number of subjects. A lot of people expressing their worry actually about the lack of midfielders that Arsenal will have if some of this business pans out the way we think it's going to pan out. Of course, we still haven't secured a deal that would see Dani Ceballos return to the club, although that has not yet been ruled out. It looks as though discussions are ongoing between Arsenal and Manchester United. Almost said Manchester United and Real Madrid. Sorry, I've just come back from holiday. I'm all over the place. But discussions are ongoing between Arsenal and Real Madrid over Dani Ceballos' future. Arsenal, as I said repeatedly over the last few weeks, are desperate to land Dani Ceballos on another loan deal with an option to purchase the player at the end of next season. It's not that Arsenal aren't convinced of his worth. They are. Mikel Arteta has been extremely impressed by Dani Ceballos' performances, both on the pitch and in training. His attitude, the way he's fought back from sort of being cast out in the cold to now becoming such an important part of the side. That has really, really impressed Mikel Arteta. But Arsenal are trying to be smart here. They're trying to be clever in the transfer market, and they're trying to find a way of, I guess, putting off the payment until next season, which would allow them to then do some other business and hopefully build a squad and assemble a squad that would get them back into the Champions League sooner rather than later. So that's not dead. But a deal that is also being talked about is one that would see Lucas Torreira leaving the club. He's been linked with a move back to Italy. And my good friend Vittorio Campanile put the question on Twitter around whether Torreira could be on his way to Lazio. If you haven't, check out the Lazio Lounge, which is Vittorio's channel. Myself and Vittorio were doing the Simply Serie A podcast last season. We stopped it during lockdown due to the severity of the situation in Italy at the time. It just didn't feel right. But we're going to come back hopefully at the start of the new season to talk about Italian football once a week. So keep an eye on that. But in response to Vittorio's question, can I see Torreira moving on? Well, I think the rumbles about Torreira being unhappy with life in London and considering a move back to Italy have been going on for far too long now for them to just be nonsense. I think there is a desire probably for the player maybe to return back to Italy, back to a country in which he feels much more comfortable. And it hasn't necessarily gone as well as he would have hoped in terms of his Arsenal career. Yes, there have been good points, there have been good performances, but there have also been tough times. There have been injuries. There's been times where he's been out of favour. And so you could understand why Lucas Torreira maybe doesn't feel as though he has much of a long-term future at Arsenal and could be as such considering a move away from the Emirates Stadium and back to Italy. But that is dependent on everybody doing a deal, on the player finding a proposition that is attractive to him, on Arsenal getting the transfer fee that they believe he is worth. There are so many factors in this. And of course, when Arsenal signed Lucas Torreira from Sampdoria, they paid around about £25.8 million according to Transfer Market. He still has until 2023 to run on his current contract. So it's going to have to be a decent offer. But he is very much one of the players in that Arsenal squad that you feel you could raise some funds from. But if he goes, if we don't land Ceballos, if Guendouzi goes, if Ainsley Maitland-Niles goes, then there is a concern that Arsenal would be really, really short in the midfield. And I don't think Arsenal would allow those deals. We'd hope they wouldn't allow those deals to happen until they were in a position where they felt like they had sufficient players coming in. Let's continue. Let's continue going through some of your comments and questions before we come on to talk about something else. Don't forget, smash the like button. It doesn't cost you anything. I promise it's free. Nearly 400 of you watching us across the multiple platforms live at the minute. And it would really, really help us if we can get to at least 150 likes. We're on 131 at the moment, so we're nearly there. Smash the like button. Harry Haran says, can you compare the frenzy around transfers today with those around past great players like Bergkamp, Omri, etc.? Which of the great signings did experts have criticism on the signing made by Arsenal? In regards to your first bit of the question, where you say compare the frenzy, I don't think there was this type of frenzy, but not because people weren't interested, because I think people have always loved football, always loved their football clubs. But obviously in those days, there were very limited sources. There weren't as many media outlets as there are now. Teletext was kind of like your go-to, and that took bloody ages to load. You know, there was no iPhones, there was no Android phones, there was no Twitter. So I just think it's something that's just happened because of the way times have progressed. The more information, the more speculation, and that's the position we find ourselves in now. You speak about some of the greats. You mentioned Dennis Bergkamp, Thierry Henry. I think some people may have sort of been critical of Dennis Bergkamp when he joined, not because he wasn't a good player, because he was a fantastic player at Ajax, but obviously he had a bit of a tough time in Italy, did Dennis Bergkamp, before joining Arsenal. So I'm not old enough to remember when Dennis Bergkamp signed. If I'm being completely honest, I think I was 5 or 6 years old at the time, so I'd be lying. But I think the frenzy and the big criticism and the whole shebang that comes with a transfer nowadays is just a sign of the times more than anything else. Let's see what else we've got here. Lots and lots of comments coming through. Let's go to Chris TV, who says, Holding is heavily linked with Leeds because they don't want to pay for Ben White. Hopefully I can provide a little bit of insight on this, because Leeds are one of the clubs that I cover really, really closely in my day job. So I'm always keeping tabs on what Leeds are doing. Lots of stuff going on in the transfer market at the moment. But you're right to say that Leeds, I'm not going to say they don't want to pay for Ben White, because they do. But it's whether they can agree a fee with Brighton. They've had 3 bids rejected up until now. Holding was mentioned as a potential sort of alternative to Ben White. However, it is my understanding at the moment that Leeds are not currently pursuing a move for Rob Holding. There are a number of other players who they are said to be more interested in as alternatives to Ben White, should they not be able to agree a deal. 3 bids rejected. It's looking like it's going to be a struggle for them to do that deal, understandably. So it is it's a lot of money that Brighton are asking for a player who's had a good season in the Championship, but not much more than that. And I'm not saying that White won't go on to be a really, really good player, but to demand sort of 30 million plus for a player who's, he did well in the Championship, but it was the Championship, and we've got to understand that it's a big step up to the Premier League now. So I don't know if Brighton are potentially holding out for one of the bigger clubs to come along, whether they will allow White to go later on, which will in turn prevent this deal for Holding going through. But it's my understanding that he's not on his way to Leeds. I think Arsenal would be willing to move Rob Holding on, but I don't think Leeds are somebody who are pursuing him, or are a club, sorry, who are pursuing him at the moment. Matthew D'Souza says, question, Harry, how ominous did Chelsea look with their new signings? Well, Chelsea are certainly not fucking about in terms of this transfer window. It looks as though they are going all out. We're led to believe Ben Chilwell's on his way, that Kai Havertz is also on his way. So they are not messing around. Chelsea, they mean business. Mark my words, though, when I say that it feels like with Roman Abramovich sort of suddenly becoming interested again, putting his hands in his pocket, Frank Lampard will be under immense pressure to deliver. Is that going to impact on sort of their season next year? Certainly on paper, they're making all the right moves, but they still haven't addressed an area for me that is really, really key and is a real problem for them. Actually, 2 areas, the goalkeeping department and the central defensive department. Of course, they are being linked with a move for Thiago Silva on a 1-year contract. Of course, a defeated Champions League finalist last night, but that is not done yet. So as far as I'm concerned, they haven't, or at the time of me putting this out, so at the time they haven't address those areas. Newton Muse asks, any updates on Thomas Partey? The update is pretty much the same as it's always been, or as it has been anyway, for the last few weeks. And that is that Arsenal are still interested in bringing Thomas Partey to the Emirates Stadium. However, Atletico Madrid at the moment are not budging on the player's 50 million euro release clause. That is what Atletico want. If that price is met, then they have no choice but to accept the offer, given the legalities of his contract. However, as of this moment in time, Arsenal have not yet activated that release clause. They have had preliminary talks about the possibility of maybe paying it in installments, which for the time being Atletico are not entertaining. They don't want to know. So we're just going to have to wait and see whether Arsenal do end up going that extra mile for Thomas Partey, whether the stance of Atletico Madrid softens given the current climate, whether any outgoings at Arsenal would release the funds that are needed for them to meet that release clause. Still not any closer to happening, is my understanding of the situation, but it is a deal that Arsenal really, really do want to do this summer. Will they be able to stretch to do it and make it happen, though, remains to be seen. What else have we got here? Let's see what else we've got. Just scrolling through your comments. Keep them coming. Keep your questions coming. We'll run for a little bit longer as well. We'll take as many questions as we possibly can, and comments as well. Gino says Arsenal need to move fast. Every team that finished above us are improving, and Arsenal is falling further behind. It feels like that at the moment. Well, it feels like that when you talk about Chelsea, who we've just mentioned. Have Tottenham improved sufficiently with Højbjerg and Joe Hart coming in? Not so sure. Chelsea are the obvious one, but Man United haven't done any business yet either. So, let's hold fire on that, because I do think Arsenal are working hard behind the scenes. But as Michael Wales says, he says, Gino, I think we need to sell first, and I agree with that. I think what we can bring in is very much. It is very much dependent on who comes in. Who goes out, and what funds we can raise from that. Spitey says, did you hear we're scouting a young central midfielder called Yorak Hunt? I've heard the name branded around a little bit. I'll be honest with you, he's not a player I know anything about, so I'm not going to sit here and pretend to give you the download on it, because I've watched a couple of YouTube clips, but no, I'm not aware of any concrete interest in him at the moment. Jayesh, hey dear mate, he says Arsenal need to offload a few players, and I know it'll be hard under the current climate, but who would you offload? I think as much as it's who we want to offload this summer, it's going to be about who we can offload. And I think that, as I said earlier on, Socrates and Mustafi are players that I think we could offload, perhaps more easily than some of the others. I think that as much as they've not been great in Arsenal shirts all the time, I think they still maintain relationships in Europe. Relationships probably the wrong word. They still maintain some form of reputation for the work that they've done previously, and so I think those two could be two players that we see moved on. I really, really do. I think that we'd hope Matteo Guendouzi has moved on, just because of the transfer value that you'd hope you'd get from him. Guendouzi's another one, but I think, if we got rid of 5 players this summer, I think we'd be good. We talk a lot about the midfield as well, and the desperate need for midfielders. Mohamed El Neni is back as well. He'll be returning to Arsenal. Whether he's moved on straight away and maybe we can raise some funds from him as well, remains to be seen. But I think there are players there that Arsenal can get some money for. It's not necessarily going to be bank-breaking stuff. I think for an article I was doing earlier today, when I went on Transfer Market and I added up the values of Mustafi, Socrates, Holding and Chambers, I think it was around about £45 million. It's not bank-breaking, but if you can move those 4 on and bring in one top-class player, I think it is certainly worth doing, for sure. Right, let's keep going through you guys' comments. Over 500 of you watching us now, which is incredible. Incredible to know that so many of you are currently tuned in live. But please hit that like button. Let's get ourselves up to 250. That'll be half of you, which would be amazing. If half of you can hit that button, it means the world to this channel. just having a look at this, because you're coming up with this name, you're at cunt. I've just got it. You've completely done me. You completely. I'm a cunt. Yeah, you're a cunt. Good one. Good one. What's the name I was thinking of then? What's the Turkish name? The lad from Holland. Anyway, yeah, I think you've done me there. But I'm a cunt, am I? Really? I think you're a cunt, mate, for being so bored that you're spamming the comments with your nonsense question. Let me find out the name of that player that I was referring to, because there is a young Turkish lad from Holland that Arsenal have been rumoured to be interested in. I'll come back to that in a minute while I just find it. Let's carry on going through your comments. But you know I'm on holiday. I was on holiday because I would have caught that otherwise. What else have we got? Spitey says, "My apologies, bro. Just a laugh." Yeah, I know. I'm only joking. But you're a cunt as well, to be fair. And Inti Yanan says, more funny that he's claimed to watch him. I didn't claim to watch him. I said I'm not going to sit and lie to you that I've seen a player from a few YouTube clips, because I haven't. I definitely said that, mate. So maybe you need to go back and check that out. Right. Keep your questions coming as we continue to power through the stories involving Arsenal at the moment. Lots and lots going on, lots to talk about. Orkun Kukcu, that's the guy I was thinking of, from Feyenoord. Orkun Kukcu, young Turkish lad, central midfield player. That's who I had in mind. But yeah, his name's definitely not You're a Cunt. I've had a nightmare there. Right, let's continue through. What else have we got here? Hussein says, "Hi, bro." Stan the Man says, "Oh, Harry, you fell for it." Absolutely. I did. Harry, read that player name again. Yeah, I really did fall for that. You're right. What else have we got here? Caden Alexander Dial says, "We need to keep Ainsley." Yeah. Look, we've been through this, sort of earlier on in the program. It's one that's dividing the fan base at the moment, isn't it? Because lots of people want to see him stay, others don't. And it's one that I think, as I said right at the top of the show, I'm torn on. Do I want him to stay? In an ideal world, if Arsenal had the money to then go out and do what they were doing, then great. But if this is the only way we're going to raise funds, then it has to be. It has to be done. He has to be sold, and we have to move on from it. According to Sky Germany, says Sam, Schalke want to re-sign Kolasinac on loan. I definitely think he's one of the players that we would be open to moving on this summer. Whether an offer comes in that we feel is the right offer remains to be seen, though. What else have we got? Just scrolling through your comments, lots and lots coming. Samuel from Germany says, "Hi Harry, do you think that Arsenal are going to sign Thomas Partey?" Love from Germany. As I said earlier on, mate, I think he's someone that Arsenal want to sign. I think he's someone that Arsenal are desperate to sign, actually. But whether a deal can be done remains to be seen. We'll just have to hold tight and see how the rest of the transfer market plays out, and then we will know whether or not Arsenal can raise the funds to get someone like Thomas Partey. And we know what it's going to take. We know it's going to take 50 million euros. We hear that the player has a desire to join Arsenal and will be open to a move to London, but that is it. That is literally it at the moment. So I hope so. And my heart says I hope so, and I think we will. But my head says I'm not sure at this moment in time. What else have we got here? Still going on about the you're a cunt thing. Inti Yanan insists that I said I watched him. No, I said I'm not going to sit and tell you about a player that I don't know nothing about from a few YouTube clips, because I don't do that. I don't watch YouTube clips and then come out with assessments on players. And you can rewind that and see, mate. What else have we got? Question from Graham Brooks, the legendary Graham Brooks. How you doing, mate? Welcome to the stream. Hope you are well, my friend. Where do you see Saka's role in the team this season, Harry? This is a really, really interesting question, because under Mikel Arteta, we've seen him play as a fullback. We've seen him play as a number 10. We've seen him play as a winger. I very much feel like, despite the fact he got so much game time that last season, I still think that in Mikel Arteta's eyes, he's not quite ready yet to play week in, week out. I think you saw towards the end of the campaign, when he started to be left out of the team in certain games, you got the impression, didn't you, that Mikel Arteta was like, great, we've done the deal, we've got him over the line, he's with us now, but is he ready to play week in, week out? And I don't think he is. I don't think Mikel Arteta thinks he is. And so I think for now, it will be very much a case of using him where we need him. And that means that we will, I believe, see him play on the left, play in the middle, play as a wing back at times, if that's a system we choose to persist with. So yeah, I think it's really, really difficult to define Saka's role exactly for next season. But Graham, let me know what you think. Always interested to hear what you have to say on it as well. So let us know. Prof Feathers says, Professor Feathers, I guess that's meant to be short for, Saka is going to be a sub in the EPL and a starter in Europe. I think I agree with that. I think he will be very much on the fringes, on the peripheries of the Premier League side, but we'll get more opportunities in the coming the coming months here to show what he can do and to develop further. But for now, I do think he will be very much a fringe player in the league and given more opportunities in European and Cup competition. Right, the final thing I wanted to discuss on today's stream, and wow, there are over 500 of you watching us across the multiple platforms at this moment in time. That is incredible. Give yourselves a pat on the back. We're at 225 on likes. Let's get up to 250. That would be great. Another 25. So if you haven't already hit that like button, please do. It would help us massively. And we're going to talk about the possibility of the great man, the legend, the Iceman, the one of the greatest players I've ever had the pleasure of watching live, and that is Dennis Bergkamp. He is being linked with a move back to Arsenal as one of Mikel Arteta's coaching staff. Now, we heard Freddie Ljungberg come out and announce his departure recently, and I haven't actually done a podcast since then, so it's worth paying a little bit of respect and a little bit of a short tribute to Freddie Ljungberg, who's been a great servant to the football club, both on and off the field. Took care of our youngsters for a while, got promoted into the first team, fulfilled a role under a number of coaches at first team level, even took the reins at the club when things went south and Unai Emery was sacked between us, hiring Mikel Arteta and Emery's departure. It didn't really go as planned, but unfortunately, you've got to be, as much as it didn't go to plan, you've got to be realistic in your assessment of Freddie Ljungberg's sort of time as the manager, and he was an interim manager, and the reality is that he inherited an absolute fucking shit show, and so I don't hold him responsible for any of those results. I don't see it as a black mark against his name necessarily. I do think though that when Mikel Arteta came in, it was always going to be a matter of time actually before we did see Freddie Ljungberg move on. Maybe they don't necessarily see eye to eye totally. Mikel Arteta has his ideas, and that's fine, but I wish Freddie Ljungberg all the best in whatever he does. I really, really do, because he's been a great servant to the club, as I said, and I had the pleasure of interviewing Freddie Ljungberg last season. And if you do get a chance, there is a podcast episode. I need to check what number it is. I'll let you know in the comments. But you can hear it. I spoke to him after an under-23s game. He was kind enough to give me 5-10 minutes of his time to talk, and it was great stuff, and I really, really enjoyed it. So you can check that out. But yeah, wish him all the best. And, if Dennis Bergkamp is someone who's going to be coming in the other way, Wow. I mean, what a boost that would be. The Dutch master, as I said, one of the greatest players I've ever seen wear the Arsenal shirt, and I'm delighted to even see that he's being linked. Of course, that is a deal that hasn't been done yet, so I advise caution on that. But Dennis Bergkamp has recently said, hasn't he, in an interview, I think it was with Ian Wright, that he would welcome the opportunity to come back and work at Arsenal. So if the opportunity is there and Dennis is up for it, we'd all take him back with open fucking arms. There's no doubt about that. Let me know your thoughts. Would you like to see Dennis Bergkamp return to Arsenal in some sort of capacity as a coach, etc., etc.? Wow, what a prospect that would be. I'm going to take a couple more of your questions before we wrap up. I am jet lagged, I am tired, and I am a bit of a cunt according to today's stream. So, yeah, his name's definitely not your cunt. It's Orkun Kokju. I got done. I got absolutely done. Right, let's go through some of your comments. Coming through live. We're just going to pick up a couple more before we lock off because we've been going for an hour now. This is a great point from Kaylee. Fantastic point. What role is Dennis going to take up, bearing in mind he does not fly? Or has he overcome that fear? I don't know that he has overcome that fear, if I'm honest. But I guess a coaching role would mean it would be something that would be based at London Colney, based at Arsenal, that doesn't involve him being necessarily part of the first team setup where he would be required to travel to away games, maybe. I don't know. But that's a great point, a really interesting one, and one I hadn't thought of. Sherdon asks, any thoughts on Zaha? It's a no-go for me. It's done. You know, the opportunity was last season, didn't happen. So for me, it's a no-go. I don't want to see Arsenal splash out that kind of money on Wilfred Zaha. I don't think he's worth it, if I'm honest. I didn't think he was worth that sort of money last summer, and I made that very, very clear. So I don't think much has changed in a year. In fact, I think he's had a bit of a disappointing season, which, if anything, has decreased his value. Add that to the fact we've got Pepe, we've got Martinelli, we've got Saka. Nah, not for me. Not interested. Adam Maloney says, you didn't read my questions, elbow cough. Resubmit it, mate. Apologies. There's so many comments coming through at the moment. I might have scrolled past it. I have not picked up every question, unfortunately. Otherwise, I'll be here till tomorrow. But yeah, if it's a good one, mate, stick it in the chat and I'll try and grab it before we finish. Russ Morgan says, any thoughts on Thiago? Look, I'd love to see Thiago Alcantara come to Arsenal. He's a wonderful, wonderful footballer. Said to be available for around about 25-30 million euros. But if he has his heart set on a move to Liverpool, given their recent success, given the project that Jurgen Klopp has going on there at the moment, and the fact that they are so far ahead of us in terms of their progress, it would be naive to think that he would choose Arsenal over Liverpool, in my opinion. There would have to be more to that for me, I think, if we were to land him. But in terms of whether I'd want to see him at the club, of course I would. Of course I would. He's a fantastic footballer. And I don't think there are many better central midfielders, creative central midfielders in the world out there right now than Thiago Alcantara. So yeah, I'd absolutely love to see him come to the Emirates Stadium. Of course I would. Right. That brings me to the end of the stream. Apologies if I haven't come to your question. I will be sure to try and pick up some different ones on the next stream. We'll be back tomorrow around about the same time, 5:30ish, and we'll be bringing you the latest transfer news involving Arsenal. I'll be sharing with you my opinions, my views. That's what they are, opinions and views. Not claiming to be in the know. The information I do give you is because I believe it's come from reliable sources, but I'm not any further ahead than anybody else. But I love discussing this stuff and I love talking about it with you guys in the live chat. Thank you to everyone who welcomed me back after my holiday. It's great to be back. Great to see so many of you joining us on the first stream back as well. Thanks to the guy who caught me out with the You're a Cunt name. Don't know how I fell for that. And I do apologize to Orkun Kokchu. who I don't think is a cunt, just to make that clear. But until next time, take care of yourselves, stay safe, more importantly, and keep an eye on that Arsenal transfer news. And I know we're all keeping tabs on our phones, keeping tabs on Twitter, desperate for some news. But I believe there will be news coming in the next few days. We know that Gabriel's having his medical, so that is something that we can look forward to the announcement for. But even if it is done today, just beware that the announcement might be a little bit late, given all the issues that the club are having to contend with now: quarantine rules, travel restrictions, etc., etc. So stay patient, keep the faith, and up the Gunners.